Caseus. The Inner Storm. Chapter 10. Caseus was busy running through possible strategies with Dravok and the others. They had a plan, but in order to enact it, they'd need to know what this facility was like. Hopefully Rax was able to obtain some useful intel. Has Rax contacted you yet, Harbo?
Not yet. I'm starting to get worried.
Don't lose faith yet. We need to stay optimistic. When he gets here, we'll have the final piece of this puzzle. As for now, you all know your roles. Harbo, you and your crew will take the charge and draw the attention of the soldiers and security. While you're doing that, Tosa, you'll make your way to the shipyard and do what you do best. Blow things up. Tosa grinned a big, toothy grin. Rondo, you and your crew will provide cover from the air. Take out any ships that try to flee or impede our mission. Once security is divided and scattered, Dravok and I will sneak in and find Vader. If everything goes according to plan, Juro will be waiting in the shuttle to get us out of there. Are we all clear? Everyone nodded. Now we just wait for Rax. As the hours passed, Caseus found Dravok sitting on the edge of the cruiser. When's our next lesson? Dravok looked at him.
Any additional training would be a waste of time and energy. You're ready to stand against Vader. Remember everything I've taught you. The teachings of the Jedi will get you killed in there. Focus your aggression and your anger into Vader. Let your pain fuel you. If you do that, I know we can defeat him.
Caseus nodded. What are you going to do after this? Dravok stayed silent. You don't have a plan, do you?
I'll figure something out. I always do.
Caseus could sense something was off with Dravok, but he didn't care enough to press the issue.
I saw you talking with Zaturi earlier. Something going on there?
No, nothing.
You sure? You two seem to have a lot in common to be talking that long.
We've both been through a lot of pain. If you consider that having something in common, it's no wonder things didn't work out between you and Master Takai. Dravok's gaze turned sour.
You might want to stay quiet about things you don't know everything about.
I'm not interested in Zaturi. Even if I was, things wouldn't work out between us. My heart still belongs to Sarah. It always will. Dravok looked at Caseus.
Kukuri didn't tell you everything about us, did she?
She told me what I needed to know.
But not the things she didn't want you to know.
Caseus stared at Dravok. What could he possibly tell him that Master Takai didn't?
It's best I tell you now, then. Maybe it'll give you some perspective. Not long before she took you as her apprentice, Kukuri and I were sent on a mission to the Outer Rim. We would be out there for a year. I saw it as work, but Kukuri saw it as something else. A chance for our relationship to progress.
Caseus sat and listened intently.
It wasn't long before, well, Kukuri became pregnant.
Caseus' eyes widened. What happened? Dravok gazed downward, a deep regret filling his eyes.
Kukuri became sick. We couldn't inform the council without being found out. But a child's life was on the line. By the time I made up my mind to inform the council so we could help save her and the child,
Cassie's heart sank. What happened?
We lost the baby.
For the first time in his life, Caseus felt something he never thought he would feel. Sympathy for Dravok.
We had to keep the entire thing a secret. Kukuri changed after that. We both did. It broke her heart. I think that's why she was so protective of you. You were the closest thing she ever had to a son.
Caseus felt a lump form in his throat. His mind was spinning. He couldn't believe it. But he sensed no lies from Dravok. I never knew my real parents. I was just a baby when I was brought to the temple. Master Takai looked out for me as long as I could remember. She raised me, taught me right from wrong, loved me. I guess she was the closest thing I ever had to a mother.
I think of everyone she knew. She cared about you the most.
Caseus looked at Dravok. She cared about you too. Dravok's eyes closed.
I burned my bridges with her years ago. That love we once had. The last words I ever said to her were taunts. Mockery.
Caseus sat in silence before standing. I think deep down, she still loved you. Even at the end. I'm going to go check in with the others.
Okay. By the way, there's something waiting for you on the shuttle.
What is it?
Go find out.
Caseus turned and walked to the shuttle. Sitting on his bed was a handcrafted tunic. Dark gray with black tabards and a hood on the back. Looking down at his own brown tunic, he realized just how tattered, dirty, and worn it had become. Closing the door, he changed into his new getup and attached his utility belt. It didn't look too bad. As he stepped off the shuttle, he sensed a presence entering the atmosphere. Rax had returned. Heading over to the group, Caseus stood and waited as the Arabella landed and Rax stepped off.
See? That went so hard, eh?
Rax stared at Harbo and nodded.
You all right, Rex?
I'm fine. Just tired. I have the information we need.
Rax pulled out the photos he took and handed them to Caseus, who looked them over carefully.
It's a 3-level structure. The shipyard, the hangar, and an observatory, with a few smaller facilities in between.
Okay. This gives us an idea of what we're up against. If Vader is there by now, we need to act soon.
How soon?
Caseus looked at Harbo. Tomorrow.
We're not going to have enough time to prepare by then?
We're as prepared as we're going to be. The Empire is efficient. Rondo's informant said that he's there to oversee the final stages of construction. We don't have time to wait another week.
I agree.
Dravok walked over.
We have to make our move while we still can.
Harbo looked at his crew and to their supplies.
Fine. It's shorter notice than I like, but we'll get everything ready.
Rondo, will you and your men be ready by tomorrow morning?
If that is what's required.
Tosa? Tosa laughed and revealed a large bag full of explosives.
I've been ready for 2 days. I've got enough firepower in here to take out as many of those ships as we need to.
Caseus turned to Juro. Juro? Juro looked at Caseus uneasily.
I'm ready.
Okay. Remember your jobs. Harbo, you and your crew cause as much havoc as you can. Draw security your way. If it starts to get too dicey, retreat to the Arabella and get out as fast as you can. Tosa, take out as many of their ships as you can. Use your stealth to your advantage. Rondo, be prepared to offer air support. Dravok and I will take care of the rest. Juro, be ready to get us out of there as soon as I give the signal. Everyone looked slightly unnerved, but agreed. Then it's settled. Everyone make your final preparations. We leave at first light tomorrow morning. The team disbanded to gather everything they would need. Evening came, and Caseus rested his head on his pillow. He heard the voice calling out in his head, but no amount of voices or nightmares would keep him from getting the rest he desperately needed. The morning soon came. Before the suns rose, Harbo and his crew slept, all except for Rax, who crept out of his corner of the ship and activated a small device from his pocket. Back on Castellon, an engineer sat at his station when a light began to flash on his screen. Getting up, he made his way over to the captain.
Sir, the bounty hunter's just given the signal.
It appears he hasn't disobeyed his orders. I shall inform Lord Vader at once. In the observatory, Vader stood, looking out the window at the gathering clouds. The door behind him opened up. My lord, we have received a signal from the bounty hunter. The Jedi are ready to enact their plan.
Have your men prepare for their arrival. Kill the others, and leave the Jedi to me.
Yes, my lord. The captain left as Vader continued to watch the clouds creep closer. On Blengiel, Caseus woke up and put on the outfit Dravok had given him. Closing his eyes, he carefully caressed Sarah's braid around his neck, taking a deep breath in. As he stepped out of the shuttle, he saw everyone up and about, finishing their breakfast. Dravok stepped beside Caseus.
We've trained for this day, Caseus. All the pain, all the suffering. It pays off today.
I know. Dravok put a hand on Cassius' shoulder.
If Kukuri could see you now. Her death will be avenged.
Cassius nodded as the team gathered around. This is it. The tyranny of Darth Vader ends today. Are you all ready to become heroes of the galaxy? Are you ready to cripple the Empire? The team cheered loudly as Cassius stood tall. Then get to your ships. Follow your orders. The Force is with us. Harbo and his crew boarded the Arabella as Rondo and his men prepared their ship for takeoff. Tosa accompanied Dravok and Cassius on board their shuttle, as Juro sat in the cockpit breathing slowly. Ready when you are, trooper. Juro nodded to Cassius as the ramp closed, and all three ships flew into the air. Looking out of the window, Cassius took one more look at the Praxium cruiser as it grew smaller and smaller, before it faded into the distance as they left the atmosphere and jumped to light speed.
We'll be arriving at Castellon shortly.
Cassius prepared his gear and put his hood up. Get ready. As soon as Harbo and his crew make their move, we take advantage. Drop us off somewhere out of sight. After that, lay low until we contact you. Tosa, you find the shipyard.
And blow them up?
Sky high. Tosa hissed gleefully, caressing the bag of explosives. The ship soon exited hyperspace as they approached Castellon's surface. Thick, dense fog covered the waters below, and the storm clouds brewed in the skies. In the distance, they could see the factory. Cassius took deep breaths. This was it. No turning back. It was all or nothing.
Remember, Cassius. Remember everything he's taken from you.
Cassius shut his eyes tightly, remembering the feeling of holding Sarah's lifeless body in his arms. Her death. His master's death. Every Jedi who died at his hand. They would be avenged today. The ship's comm channel began to beep.
Ready when you are. The Arabella is fully cloaked and ready to make its approach.
Cassius stared at the approaching factory. Go. On board the Arabella, Harbo swiftly piloted the ship towards the hangar. The cloaking device deactivated as they approached, and the stormtroopers in the hangar awaited the incoming trespassers.
Crash, Scrug, Minch. Get ready to lay down some fire.
Kresh strapped his Buster rifle to his shoulder as Scrug and Minch primed their rapid-fire pistols.
Chitauri, any activity up top, you take 'em out. Got it?
Chitauri nodded.
2-bit, Rex. Once this area's been cleared out, get the blast doors open. We'll make our way inside and take out as many as we can.
Rax was sweating, but nodded, keeping up the appearance of a loyal friend. The Arabella landed as they waited at the back end of the ramp. Soon, the ramp opened, as several stormtroopers aimed their weapons.
Light 'em up!
Kresh released a hailstorm of blasts that ripped through the stormtroopers in the front. Scrug and Minch let their trigger fingers go wild, blasting through the helmets of the remaining troopers as they rushed into the hangar. More troopers arrived as Kresh let loose again and fired at the troopers. Harbo looked over at a fuel station and blasted the tank, causing it to erupt in a fiery blast that sent troopers flying in every direction. From up above on the catwalks, 4 stormtroopers opened fire upon the crew who sat behind cover.
All yours, Saturi.
With a high-pitched buzz, Saturi's rifle charged as she fired off 4 shots in quick succession, killing them in seconds. As Harbo fired at the incoming troopers, he looked to Rax.
Rex, 2-bit, go!
2-bit and Rax ran forward, sidestepping debris and blaster fire before making their way to the blast door. Pulling out a power cutter, 2-bit began to slice into the terminal where the wires were. Once they were exposed, he started to rewire the system, and soon, the doors were opened and the hangar was cleared.
Let's move!
Activating his comlink, he sent out a signal to Caseus.
That's the signal. Get us down there.
Yes, sir.
As the Arabella's crew rushed through the ship, blasting troopers, they turned a corner and found themselves surrounded by Imperial soldiers, aiming their weapons. At the front, the Imperial officer who had interrogated Rax.
A noble attempt, Captain Tyron, but horrendously misguided.
Harbo glared and kept his weapon aimed carefully.
If I were you, I'd scram, Imp. Less'n you want to get caught in the crossfire.
Juro landed the shuttle outside of a maintenance station as the ramp opened up, and Caseus, Juro, and Tosa stepped off. Tosa, the shipyard is on the western side. Blow up any fighters you see and get back to Juro. Tosa grabbed his bombs and scampered off. Caseus closed his eyes. He's here. I can feel him.
Me too.
Dravok looked up at the towering factory, up at the observatory.
Up there. That's where he is. Move.
Caseus and Dravok rushed inside, keeping to the shadows and making their way upwards. Meanwhile, Harbo and his team stayed back to back, keeping their weapons aimed carefully.
Harbo Tyron. Yes, I've heard of you. You and your band of rabble. Your reputation precedes you, as does your stench.
Harbo smirked.
Sticks and stones. But first you gotta throw 'em.
Tell me, scum. You had a plan to get in here. Did you have an escape strategy?
I guess we'll see. You gonna keep yapping? Or are we gonna do this?
Now, why should I dirty my own hands in a shootout with you, when your defeat is already set in stone?
Harbo looked confused, but felt the barrel of a blaster on the back of his head. Rax stood, holding his weapon to Harbo's skull.
Rax? You?
You should have listened to me, Harbo. I told you this plan was too risky. I got caught and decided to cut my losses.
Harbo turned to face him.
After everything, I thought you were a better man than that.
It didn't have to come to this. Harbo, I'm sorry.
Rax stepped over and joined the officer.
Your friend here has made a smart choice. Now, lower your weapons and surrender. Or die.
Harbo looked at his crew and back to the Imperials.
Well, suppose I'd rather die on my feet than on my knees.
Harbo and the crew immediately opened fire, hitting several stormtroopers and wounding the officer, before 2-Bit, Scrug, and Minch were shot dead. Harbo was struck in the stomach and fell to one knee, continuing to fire as his body was riddled with blasts. Saturi was struck in the leg as Kresh stepped forward, firing his Buster rifle and forcing the troopers back, several being killed. Kresh grabbed Saturi and slung her over his shoulder, dropping a smoke bomb to obscure the stormtroopers' view as they ran. The officer stood, holding his arm and pointing to Rex.
Don't just stand there, get them!
Rex ran out of the door, only for his foot to be blasted in half by Harbo, who lay dying. Rax writhed in pain, holding his foot and glaring at Harbo.
Remember that wound, Rax. Let it be a reminder of the family you betrayed.
The officer scoffed and pulled out his pistol, firing into Harbo's skull. Rax stared at the dead body of his old captain. Meanwhile, Tosa made his way to the shipyard and saw at least 30 completed TIE fighters. Sneaking around in the shadows, he quickly ran to each one and planted the bombs, pulling out his comlink.
The bombs are in place. Heading back. Hurry. We don't have a lot of time.
Tosa ran towards the doorway, only to run into a squad of pilots.
Hey, who are you?
Maintenance?
Let me see your credentials.
Yes. Of course, yes, right here.
Tosa pulled out his rifle and blasted away, killing 2 of the pilots before the others opened fire. Tosa quickly dove behind one of the TIE fighters and threw out a Dioxis bomb which released a thick green cloud that suffocated the life out of the remaining pilots.
I love doing that.
Tosa ran past the doorway and back down the corridors, and then set off the bombs, causing the fighters to explode in the shipyard. Back in the hangar, Kresh ran as fast as he could back to the Arabella, Zaturi wounded and near death on his shoulder. Troopers continued to fire, as Kresh took cover behind a stack of TIE fighter wings, blasting away from behind his makeshift barrier. More were coming. He couldn't make it to the ship without being blasted to bits. As the troopers moved in, several small clanging noises were heard.
What was that?
Looking down, the stormtroopers saw 3 beeping thermal detonators.
Uh-oh.
The bombs exploded, sending the bodies of the Imperial soldiers flying as the remaining troopers fired aimlessly through the smoke, only to be struck by several shots from Tosa's rifle.
Hurry! Get to the ship, you blithering oaf!
Kresh hoisted Zaturi onto his shoulder and rushed with Tosa to the Arabella as more troopers arrived. The ship took off into the sky as several shots ricocheted off the hull. Tosa pulled out his comlink and called Juro.
Change of plans. My job is done. Finish yours and get out of there. Meet us back on Blenjil.
What? Fine. Get out.
Juro sat in the shuttle, hovering beneath the bottom of the factory. He was worried.
Caseus. Hurry.
Caseus and Dravok snuck their way through the halls of the factory and stepped into the turbo lift leading to the observatory above.
This is it. Are you ready?
Caseus took a deep breath and gripped his saber.
I'm ready.
The ride to the top took only 30 seconds. It felt like hours. Then, the door opened. They stepped into the observatory. Staring out the window at the far end was Vader. Caseus and Dravok could feel his presence, feel the cold, the hatred. The 2 Jedi ignited their weapons as Vader turned to them.
Not the Jedi I was hoping for.
Caseus and Dravok stepped closer, slowly, keeping their sabers ready.
Do you remember me?
Vader stared coldly.
Should I?
Caseus pulled his hood off.
You look at me! You took everything from me. You killed many Jedi, including the one I loved.
Vader stepped closer, now a mere 20 feet from the 2 of them.
Yes. I remember. So you managed to survive. An oversight I will soon rectify.
Your threats don't scare me. You don't scare me. You can hide behind that mask all you want. I know who you are. Skywalker. The air around them went ice cold as the room went silent, save only for the rumble of thunder and the heavy pattering of rain on the windows. Suddenly, the windows began to crack and shatter. Caseus didn't know if it was his anger or Vader's. It didn't matter. You took it from me, and I'm going to make you suffer for it. Vader slowly removed his lightsaber and activated a crimson blade.
Then join her in death.